Hello, welcome back to the podcast or my YouTube channel. I've got both. And I want to talk about something profound today. This is something I've talked about before, but lately I've been feeling a push to talk about this even more because it's on my heart to tell you what I know is the truth and from all the research that I've done. And it's so important for all of you to know that healing from MS holistically is possible. And number two, you need to know the real facts and the data that tells you the real information from Big Pharma and the MS Society. So today I want to really make it known, and I want people to really understand and see what's happening in our medical world and in the MS Society. So this is going to be an important episode today. So if you or someone you love has been diagnosed with MS, you know the narrative. You're told that MS is incurable, and you're given a list of different medications to take to manage your disease. And I'm here to tell you that MS medication is not needed. But if you're interested, I've got a whole platform and I've got over 75 people on it that are putting in the work and who are feeling better and who are on their way to reverse this disease. I've done it. I've helped other people do it. And I've got a 12-week program on this platform that really moves the needle for people. So if you're interested, you can reach out at info@nourishyourway.com, but I'll put my platform in the show notes. And it's my big community where people are healing their symptoms. So people every day are healing holistically from MS. And I don't say this as a theoretical concept. I say this as living proof. I've reclaimed and reversed MS myself. So you might ask, so why isn't this life-changing truth being broadcasted from every single neurological clinic across the country or even the world? And here's why. The current healthcare apparatus is built on a business, and the model is symptom management, not root cause resolution. There's an immense profit in chronic disease and virtually none in lifestyle restoration. So today we're going to pull back the curtain on the multi-billion-dollar machinery driving the multiple sclerosis industry. And I'm going to be talking about the astronomical drug costs to severe side effects on these drugs, to physician payments, and the advocacy organization balance sheets. So first, I want to talk about the 5 most popular DMTs, or disease-modifying therapies. And I'm going to talk about their risks. When our medical system only focuses on lifelong pharmaceutical intervention rather than addressing the root cause, and this is diet, this is lifestyle, this is toxins in our body, and our physicians don't talk about that we can repair our nervous system. The medications become a heavy bottom line, and it's really the only options that they give you. So let's look at all the primary drugs dominating the conventional MS landscape today. Let's look at what they do, what they cost, and the heavy physical toll the side effects take on their patients. Number 1, Ocrevus. This is the most popular. This is where people get an infusion twice a year. Because of convenience, this is one that most people pick. The main manufacturer of this drug is Genotech. The annual cost of this drug is $75,000 to $80,000 a year. So here's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to target and deplete, and this is what they call it, CD20 positive B cells. These are in the immune system, and they're supposed to suppress immune attacks on nerve fibers or your myelin coating. So these common side effects that people experience due to severe infusion reactions are fever, chills, rashes, and breathing troubles, upper respiratory infections, and herpes virus reactivation like shingles. The long-term risks include an increased life-threatening infections, hepatitis B reactivation, and potential risks like breast cancer. DMT number 2, Kesimpta. The manufacturer of this drug is Novartis. This drug costs anywhere from $115,000 to $120,000, or between $9,000 and $10,000 for a monthly injection. So what this is supposed to do is a lot like Ocrevus, targeting B-cell therapy, but formulated as a self-administer injection per month. So here's the side effects of this drug. Pain, redness, and swelling, of course, from the injection. And flu-like symptoms are usually widespread right after the treatment. Like other B-cell depleters, it severely weakens the immune defenses, leading to frequent urinary and respiratory infections and a risk to a rare brain infection. Okay, DMT, or drug number 3, Tysabri. So the drug manufacturer here is called Biogen. The annual cost of this one is $85,000 to $95,000 per year. This is given as an IV infusion every 4 to 6 weeks. This monoclonal antibody is supposed to block the immune cells from crossing the blood-brain barrier into the central nervous system. The common side effects of this drug are severe fatigue, which MS already gives you, joint pain, depression, and liver damage. Crucially, Tysabri carries a black box warning, which is that rare and often fatal brain infection. I talked about this in the drug right before this one, and this is caused by a certain virus. So with this drug, patients must also undergo constant blood testing, as the risk for this brain infection increases with long-term use. Okay, drug number 4, Tecfidera. This manufacturer again is Biogen. So the annual drug cost of this is anywhere from $62,000 to $80,000 per year. This is when patients get an oral pill given twice a day. This is supposed to activate the NRF2 pathway, helping to reduce oxidative stress and neuroinflammation. Here are the common and severe side effects of this drug. Extreme skin flushing, redness, and itching affect a majority of patients. Patients have also experienced severe gastrointestinal distress, including nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and diarrhea. This is very common with this drug. Severe risks also include severe lymphonia, which are critically low white blood cell counts. Patients can also get liver injury and PML risk. Remember, that's the brain infection. Okay, here's the drug number 5, and I hope I pronounce this right. Aubagio, and I'm going to spell it for you. It's Aubagio. The manufacturer of this drug company is Sanofi. The annual cost of this drug is anywhere from $55,000 to $65,000 per year. This is a once-a-day tablet, and this pill is supposed to inhibit a specific mitochondrial enzyme, slowing down the rapid multiplication of active lymphocytes. So the common severe side effects of this drug is hair thinning, diarrhea, nausea, and burning peripheral neuropathy. This drug also carries a black box warning. The warning is severe, potential fatal liver damage and embryo fetal toxicity. It can remain in human tissue for up to 2 years. So when treatments have a price tag of $55,000 to over $110,000 a year and come bundled with a list of side effects, with organ damage, black box warnings, I don't think the typical patient would want to do this, because I don't think doctors really tell you the whole story before they prescribe these drugs. Now I want to tell you about a Yale University study, and these are payments to neurologists. So, to understand why your typical doctor does not talk to you about holistic remedies to heal and reverse your MS diagnosis, we have to follow the money in the physician's office. A landmark 225 study led by researchers at Yale University examined 5 years of open payments data uncovering US neurologists prescribing MS drugs. What they discovered is eye-opening. There's an 80% participation rate regarding these neurologists. So 80% of these doctors prescribing MS medications received direct financial benefits and payments from pharmaceutical companies. And this study was done between 2015 and 2019. Now, today, these pharmaceutical companies are still paying the doctors. So again, from 2015 to 2019, 164 million total payments went out to roughly 7,400 neurologists. So how can these neurologists be objective and really want to help you heal holistically when they're given all of this money and payments to promote the drugs? While the median payment during this time was around $779, covering occasional meals and basic educational materials. But the real power was at the top. So about 10% of these recipient neurologists captured over 95% of all of the payment money, totaling $155 million. And I'm going to tell you something. My neurologist, when I was sick and diagnosed back in 2015, she was one of the top 10. And I was able to look up and go to this website called openpaymentsdata.cms.gov. And I discovered in 2019 and also in 2020, she was paid over $1.5 million each year. Mind blowing. And then I discovered last year that she retired. And you can understand why, right? This study revealed that speaking fees had the strongest impact on prescribing patterns. The doctors that were paid by these drug companies to speak were 50% more likely to prescribe that drug. So I'm going to interject here. I'm going to tell you a quick story, and I've told this before. But when I was diagnosed in 2015, I was getting my infusion of a steroid drug. I only did a 3 to 4 day drip of the steroid drug. I was lucky enough that I didn't start any MS meds, but while I was getting this infusion, there was a really nice nurse who was talking to all the patients, and she gave me a flyer. And she said, Adrienne, I know you have MS, and I have MS too. And I want to let you know that your doctor, Tammy Miller, is giving a talk this weekend, and here's a flyer on it. So I thought, oh yeah, thank you. I want to learn all about MS and what this is all about. Of course, I want to go and learn as much as I can. So my husband and I went on that Saturday. It was around lunchtime. It was between 11 and 1 o'clock, I think. But we went in, and it was a fancy restaurant that we have in town, and they reserved one room. And she had a slideshow at one end. There were lots of tables and tablecloths, and lots of people started coming in with wheelchairs and canes, etc. And we were given either water or lemonade or iced tea. And we were given all these appetizers on the house. A lot of these were fried foods and bread and things that are not healthy. But anyway, she started giving this presentation. And there was a gentleman standing next to her in a suit. And I thought, I wonder who that is. What's funny is she never introduced him. So she went on and talked about MS. This is about half of the program. The other 50% of the program was her talking about one drug. One drug. So after the presentation, this was a red flag for me. I thought, I know there's lots of drugs on the market. Why would she only advertise one drug? And then I figured it out later. Like, she was paid for that presentation. This is insane. So that was my big aha moment. And then, of course, later, she wanted to put me on a trial drug because my current insurance did not cover MS drugs. And thank God I found out about a couple weeks later that I can heal holistically. And I'm so glad to this day that I never had to take an MS drug. But I almost went down that route if I didn't get the certain information that I could heal myself naturally. And I know there's so many people who have been given the MS drugs and they've experienced a lot of side effects and they're not getting better. And I know way back when, because I've interviewed a lot of people who had to give themselves self-injections because that was the only choice back then. I think they came out with the oral medication starting in the early 2000s. But the fact that physicians are getting paid to promote the drugs just puts a fire inside of me. It makes me angry. And to know that patients are not getting the truth of healing holistically. They're not being taught that they can do this, and it's sad. As a society, we've been taught to follow and trust the person in the white coat. But guess what? You know your body better than anybody else, and you have the power to heal without medication. Okay, now I want to talk about the MS Society, because it's been a while since I've talked about this. So many patients, and I was starting on this road to looking into the MS Society. And in my mind before, this was supposed to be an organization that helped people with MS. And later I learned that they are a profit society, not a nonprofit society. They are a business. So let's take a close look at the MS Society's official IRS Form 990 and financial statements for the fiscal year of 2025. I also want to tell you that you might want to look back at one of my previous episodes, and this is episode 144, when I talked first about the MS Society. And so on this podcast, I'm just revealing a little bit more. So in 2025, the MS Society brought in a total revenue of $162 million. And guess what? 65% of this was raised directly from the MS Bike Ride and MS Walks, powered by everyday volunteers who give their time, and patients and families. And they raise all this money and give money from their hearts. 33% of the MS Society's money is through individuals. These are direct major gifts and estate donations. And then lastly, they make about $3 million from corporations and Big Pharma to help them market the drugs. So let's look at the expenditures. So out of $155 million were spent in 2025. So client and community services is what they're advertising. So they spent $47 million on this, and this is about 30%. And they say that it's for patient navigation services, case management, and emergency financial relief. And then 28% of their expenses was $44 million. And this went to educational, distribution, and public outreach. So I'm sure they're educating the public on pharmaceutical drugs. When you go to their site, yes, there's a little bit on diet and lifestyle, but that's under the management section. And then they have $30 million, which is about 19% of their expenses, go to laboratory research and scientific studies. And this is predominantly giving money to all these different universities and outside big corporations that do research on these MS drugs so they can find a cure. They're never going to find a cure because there's no money in finding a cure. And then they spend about $34 million on staging the national MS walks and bike rides. So it's marketing for these things. And then 8% goes to all their overhead and management. And by the way, they pay themselves really well. So the chief officer used to be paid over $700,000 a year, but I looked on the last IRS document and the chief is now making $505,000. So I think maybe somebody reached out or maybe they got some feedback that said, you're probably paying yourselves too much. And I hope that's the case. And most of the other people that they had on their IRS statement were making an average of somewhere in the high 100s to the low $200,000 range. So the good news after hearing all this is the fact that you don't have to buy into any of the MS drugs. You don't have to raise your doctor's income. You don't have to buy into the MS Society. You can heal on your own or find somebody like me that can give you the right steps to get you on the way, because healing holistically is certainly possible. I'm living proof, and I've helped others do it too. Look into this podcast where I've interviewed many others who have also reversed this disease naturally. I hope this gives you a little bit of a fire underneath yourself, because when I talk about all this, it just makes my blood boil, knowing what's happening behind the scenes. And I want you to heal. I want you to know the truth. So if you have any questions, you can reach out, info@nourishyourway.com, and I wish you the best healing possible. If you liked the episode, please share it and rate the podcast, and then also join my newsletter. And it's easy to get on my list. Just go to my website, nourishyourway.com, go to the newsletter tab, and sign up. And then I'll give you healing information once a week, so you won't miss anything. And I also include a recipe of the week. Thanks for joining me today, and you'll hear from me in the near future.